Oh, hey. I didn't see you there. Hey guys, Colin Big Yoshi here, and today we're going to be talking about Avengers Age of Ultron. And this is seems like this is a very mixed movie as well. Most people like it, but it has problems. So, let's see what I think of it. Alright, so, the premise of this movie is that Tony, after going through the wormhole in the first Avengers, he has PTSD and flashbacks and stuff. And after having those anxiety attacks, he decides that we need to keep world order and we need to keep people safe from the aliens if they come back. So he builds an AI called Ultron, played by James Spader. And then Ultron gets confused because he thinks that the best way to save humans is to destroy humans. So yeah, and then they have to go kill him because Ultron's trying to kill them. Okay. So I think that the best thing about this movie is it's a more character-driven adventure. It's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, whereas it is definitely a more character-driven story because a lot of characters are going through some stuff and they all have their own little arcs and stuff. They all have their time to shine. Obviously, the great acting and chemistry and the banter and stuff, that's all top-notch, just like the first one. That's all great. But them all having their own story is pretty great as well. Like Captain America, he doesn't have a huge story, but he starts to argue with Stark more and more, and he becomes the leader of the Avengers more and recreates the Avengers in the end of the movie. Tony obviously has the most going on, where he basically created a murder bot, so that is bad. And he is basically just upset with himself the entire movie. But he's also kind of like defending his actions because he's like, well, I kind of did the right thing, it just failed in the execution. And then we have Thor, and he has his own little story because he sees a vision that Scarlet Witch, this movie introduces Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. She puts a vision in his head, so then he goes with Eric Selvig to the Water of Sight. And then he sees a vision, and then he goes and creates Vision, because they also introduce Vision in this movie. Then we have Bruce Banner, Hulk, and he has his own little story where he just kind of wants to get away from everybody, and he wants to start a family with Black Widow, but obviously, like we saw in Incredible Hulk, he cannot get excited, so he can't have kids. And then he just wants to run away from the Avengers because he realizes he's caused a lot of damage after the Hulkbuster scene, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then we have Black Widow, same thing with her. She wants to run away because she doesn't think she's a hero, basically. And then Hawkeye is the most improved character in this movie because he has this whole little plot about he has a family on the side of being a superhero, and he's basically just a normal guy. And we get introduced to his family, and it's just a great scene. He's become a fan favorite because of this movie. And even some of the new characters have some great character arcs, because Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are upset because they're mad at Tony Stark because his weapons unleashed pain upon them and their family died because of him. But then they also don't want Ultron to kill the entire population, so she's like, they're both kind of torn between which side to be on. And Vision doesn't have a great part. He never really has a great part in these movies, but I think this is his definitive form in this movie. I don't know why, he's just really great in this movie. Not really, but like he talks about all this like existential stuff, like why am I here and stuff. And he's the one to kill Ultron, so that's cool. And Ultron is also great. A lot of people I don't think like him because he tells too many jokes, but I think that's kind of what's good about him because he seems more human than he does robot, and he takes after Tony Stark and Bruce Banner and the Scepter, and they're all combined into this one big creature, or Jarvis as well. He's mixed with Jarvis, so he's mixed into this like abomination, and that's why he's more human than robot. And I mean, it definitely shows. He tells a lot of jokes like Tony would, and he is just very witty. I wasn't crazy about all the jokes that he tells, but it was okay. He's alright. And Ultron's also a really good villain because he thinks what he's doing is right. He's not like a lot of other Phase 2 villains. He actually believes what he is doing is the right thing to do. Even if he is misguided, he thinks what he's doing is right, and he feels like a very genuine character with real emotions as he apologizes to people, and he's like, please, don't do this. As his teammates leave his side. It was great to humanize the Avengers even more by showing us what they really want in the little visions that they all have. Like, Steve just wants the war to be over, but he knows that can't happen. And yeah, it's just a smart thing to show us all what they want. It humanizes them more. And like also Hawkeye, he's basically the glue that keeps the Avengers from killing each other. And also with one of the new characters, Quicksilver, he's kind of underutilized, and everybody knows that. The one in X-Men is better. I think so too. I think this one's kind of an asshole at times, and they also could have expanded on his character more. They could have had him in more movies. I don't really mind that he died in this movie that much. Like, I don't think he would have really fit in with the rest of the Avengers, but they never mention him again. I watched this cool video on how they could have mentioned him at some point, but they don't. And I think that also my favorite thing about this movie, like second favorite, is the action. The action in this movie is so good. And I think that it might actually be better than the original Avengers, because Avengers had some pretty tame fights. Like, it had the one, like the first one in Germany. That one's just kind of like, they don't fight much. It's basically just like Loki surrenders. The Battle of New York, of course, is great, but otherwise they don't have a ton of great fights. But in this movie they have, oh god, I can't even. The Battle of Sokovia is great. They're telling jokes the whole time, which is kind of bad, but like, it's kind of stupid, but I mean, it's okay. Every character gets their moment to shine, except Iron Man and Hulk. They don't really get a lot of screen time, but that's because Iron Man and Hulk have their own scene, the Hulkbuster scene, and oh my god, this scene is just epic. It's so funny, but it actually makes sense because, you know, it's Tony. It's just a great scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. The scene in the party is great, the fight scene there. And that whole party scene is just great in general. Getting to see the Avengers just hanging out, that's actually just great. But it's also just great that scene's also great because we have more than just the Avengers there. We have Rhodey is there, Maria Hill is there, Falcon is there. Like, all their friends are there to fight as well. And obviously the opening scene, that's a great scene as well, because they have that cool, like, thing where all the Avengers are in frame. That's great. And the language joke, that's great. And also the one inside the boat with Ultron, that one's great too, because everybody gets possessed. And they have the visions that I talked about earlier. And we even get some more hints at Natasha's origin story, which is cool. Like I said, we have they sprinkle little details about her past throughout. Also, speaking of Black Widow, I think that the romantic subplot between her and Banner actually really worked, because it's some real good character growth, because when they first met, he didn't trust her at all. And a few last things. They set up Black Panther by talking about Wakanda and showing us the introduction of Ulysses Claw. He's a cool bad guy. I like how they reference like every movie about one of the Avengers in Phase 2. They talk about like Black Widow flirting and how Steve is like, yeah, I know how that feels. And they talk about how Pepper is running the company and stuff. I guess that's more of a reference to Iron Man 2, but still. They mention her. And they talk about, and also they show how Maria Hill is doing as part of Stark Industries now. So that's great. And I think this is going to be the last thing. I like, actually, two things. I like how it shows an ending for, like, every character. That's great, like, Tony Stark takes a new path, and so does Thor. And then Hulk flies off into space where, you know, he ends up on Ragnarok. Or in Ragnarok on Sakaar, which is great. Black Widow's just sad because she didn't get to find him. Hawkeye goes back to spend time with his family. Scarlet Witch goes and, after the loss of her brother, she became an Avenger. And Cap just kind of became the leader of the Avengers. It's great. And also, we get more looks on Thanos, which is always pleasant. So yeah, this movie was great. I actually liked it a lot more than I did the first few times I saw it. I did not like this movie before I watched it this time, but now I actually really like it. So, yeah, I think I would actually give it a 4.5 out of 5. I don't know if it tops the first Avengers. I kind of like them both equally now. That might be controversial, that's just my opinion. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this review, then maybe subscribe and leave a like. That'd be pretty cool. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow for the end of Phase 2. Ant-Man.